Neil Tyson and that Asian guy with the crazy hair, they don't say that. Their statement is that life was more or less bound to happen based on the elements that were provided here. So then they're the ones that are preaching this, like, then it must exist out there as well. And, you know, I see it. I see where they're going with it. But then you get the other side that says that life's complex, like you were saying, like it's so complex, it was very unlikely to happen. Hey, we don't even know the origin of how it kicked off in the first place. But then it must exist elsewhere. So there's like two different groups taking place here.
Yeah, I know, but they're the ones that are supposed to be the scientists. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is a big mistake, in my opinion, for whatever, the little crippled guy, physicist guy, and for Neil Tyson guy. He's making a huge mistake. All right? I mean, physics is, you got to know probability, right? I mean, probability is a science, okay, the science of probability. And we know from that science that you can deduce absolutely nothing from one permutation. So all we have is one result. One result tells you nothing. Now, if there were two, okay, that would tell you more. If there was three, that would tell you even more. All right? But one result tells you nothing about what produced the results. So it's completely against the scientific method to draw this conclusion. It's just he has no evidence of any you know, when life occurred on Earth is completely irrelevant to how improbable it was. You know, whether the perfect storm happens on the 7th of you know, of January, or whether it happens on the 25th of December is completely irrelevant. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything when something happens. Okay, the point is how difficult was it for it to happen? How unusual is it? So if it's a 1 in 1,000 year flood, does it really matter whether it shows up in the 99th year or the first year?
Yeah, what you're telling me right now is that you can't come up with like a real good answer for a sample of one.
Right. I think that's the point that I got from it too. I mean, they're trying to find other samples, Gary. Like I don't know if you buy it, but like that the recent life that they found that lived mostly off of, I think it was dioxide, if I remember right, which was odd to them. And then some of the rocks that they've gotten from like celestial rocks that came here that showed evidence that there was life in it, not the life form itself, but like tunnels that look like they were worm-like microbes.
Well, exactly.
So they're trying.
They look like, and it's completely trying because, you know, somebody made the completely rational remark that life can't be created on that scale. Okay, it's too small. Okay, you can't have the functional parts of a living organism that small, and it's sort of true. I mean, our life, it's 10 times smaller than the smallest living thing on this planet. Now, obviously, if life could go smaller, it would, right? Just like it made dinosaurs, it would evolve both directions, correct? Obviously, there has to be a limitation that stopped it from going in that direction, a physical limitation. And that's the joke here, is the physics, again, is dictating that, yes, you couldn't maintain a cellular membrane at that scale of size. So, again, they're ignoring physics because they want to believe it.
Yeah, I see what's got you bugging. You know, as far as the scientific community, it's like you're saying, predicting the future, and that's actually, they're trying to be in this aspect. I can't recall if they've done it in other elements, but in this aspect, there must be life elsewhere. They're trying to be prophets. They're being overly romantic, and it does break the rules of science. So I get you.
Yeah, well, that's the irony of it. You know, it's like I've always been suspect of the Drake equation, but then I never even thought about the fact that, you know, I took probability in high school, you know, 40 years ago, whatever the fuck it was. You know, just one little quarter semester course. And I never even thought about it, but yeah, these guys are violating what I learned in that class, is that you just can't do this math that they're doing. The projection that they're doing is completely outside the realm of what the math requires. You know, so it's like, yeah, they're just forcing it. They're forcing it. I mean, like I said, for every single they could create 2 universes, and it wouldn't matter. All I have to do is double the number of lightning strikes required to create the first cell. I mean, I can increase the improbability of life just as quickly as they increase the number of permutations. So if they found a secret universe on the other side of our universe, I just double I can just double the unlikelihood of the perfect storm that created the first cell. I can just keep doubling the improbability of the circumstance.
I got you exactly. Yeah, because it's more, they're adding more unknowns to the equation. I got what you're saying exactly. It's like the universe is so massive, there must be life elsewhere. Well, no. If you take like Earth and then the Moon, then there is life. We know that equation. But then you add the universe on top of that, this whole factor of unknown. You've now decreased the odds of life to exist in the scientific method.
Yeah, well, it's like rolling trillion-sided dice a billion times. All right, you're just not going to get all the results. You're not going to be able to draw any conclusions. So that's the catch here. So one result, rolling the dice one time, won't tell you how many sides the dice have or how many dice there are. Just in case the dice is possible to have a blank. You know what I mean? So it doesn't give you enough information.
Do you think it's a subject that they should have avoided, or maybe change the terminology? Like, well, I'd like to think that there's life out there, but that's not what they're saying. They're using this, like you said, this fallacious equation to try to justify their belief. Really, it's a belief.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're just making a huge scientific error, and they should have been called on it, and it's unfortunate there's nobody calling them on it, but I mean, they lose a little credibility with me by making that big a glaring error. I mean, this is a huge misstatement of the reality, to say that that's the reasonable thought, that's the reasonable conclusion. No, the reasonable conclusion is to recognize that it's incredibly rare chemistry. We know that much, and it might be preposterously rare. We can't say for sure, but there's no point in speculating about the rest of the universe, except in the sense that there would obviously be civilizations out there that had, if they existed, they would have had a billion-year head start on us, and absolutely none of them have been able to demonstrate any capacity to make a sound we can hear, any noise that gets to us. So if going from a billion years from where we are right now, it would be preposterous to conclude that we couldn't create a huge beacon. We could set Jupiter, on fire. We could have it blink in Morse code. You know what I'm saying? And maybe even just 1,000 years from now. Imagine our technology 5,000 years from now. You know what I mean? There's no way we wouldn't be making a hell of a lot of noise.
Yeah, I remember your point on that recently on one of your videos. But what I found conflictive of it with myself is like, what kind of noise are you listening for? Is it light noise? Is it sound noise? Is it outside? There might be noise outside of our perspective.
Well, I mean, all you have to do is send SOS. All you have to do is send any, 5-digit, even, binary code, because no other part of the universe is creating that kind of a sound. You know what I'm saying? So all you have to do is create any eccentric sound that's beyond what the natural universe can produce, and it's automatically a signature of intelligence. So all you need to do is send a very crude Morse code type signal that any idiot with a telescope or a radio telescope could receive.
Okay, well, I'm gonna raise a question here real quick and see if you snag. Is that like ants do produce pheromone transmissions that we understand it, but we can't receive it, we can't interpret it. It's just not within our makeup to do so. So being that we can understand it, but we don't bother with ants, we step over them and move on. Do you think that it could be possible that if there is a life form out there far more advanced than us, that's exactly what they're doing? Like, yeah, I get your radio signals, I get your SOS, but you've got nothing to offer. I don't give a fuck. You're just whatever, and they just keep going. They just move on.
Well, I'm just saying that no intelligence could do that. I mean, you couldn't you couldn't discover the electromagnetic spectrum or any other scientific fact about the functionality of the world or the universe without recognizing these kinds of patterns. And so you would be it would just be the way intelligence is going to operate. It's going to know what intelligence looks like. You know what I'm saying? So it'd just be automatic. It wouldn't be something you'd ignore. It'd be something you'd be decisively looking for if you were intelligence. It'd be an automatic. It would be, that's what intelligence does. It automatically starts to model the universe. It goes out and discovers the truth and models it in its brain. And so this is what it's going to do automatically. I don't see how it could avoid the the perception first to be curious about other life in the universe, and then second to apply its technology to discover if it's out there. I mean, those are just going to be automatic developments in intelligent civilization.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but what I wonder is, like, if this life, just the hypothetical life form that I'm talking about, they would be bored with us. Like, they've already done that. They did that, you know, billions of years back. So seeing another Earth with, you know, bipedal monkey men making SOS, like, desperate for contact, they're bored with that. They're well beyond that. Do you think that's possible? That's what I'm asking. Like they did seek it back in the day.
Well, I don't think, you know, just like us, they're going to be distracted by their own comfort first, you know, and entertaining their own penises or whatever they've got that is the similar, you know, mechanism. But presumably, they, you know, by my theory anyway, you'd probably have to have sensation to have intelligence, because it's really the only thing intelligence has to do is to work on this internal model. You know what I mean? There's no intelligence can't really function any other way. High intelligence. That's why dragonflies stayed where they stayed. You know, that's why they don't get any better. So they don't need to. All right, because it's just basically about, you know, penis and vagina thing. It's not doing anything more complicated than that. There's no other mission. And it's only because our mission statement got completely fucked up. We got this little tiny change in our brain, a little tiny benefit in our intelligence capacity 200,000 years ago, and look what it led to once we acquired language. I mean, language changed everything. Language created our intelligence. We just happened to have a vessel that was capable of doing the enough words thing, that, you know, the Helen Keller thing. And so we just, you know, I'm saying you could take a person 200,000 years ago and you could put him in regular high school and he would come out just like you or me, even though nature only gave him a little. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what was evolution doing?
Yeah, I got you.
Evolution made just a tiny change that somehow led to a huge change that it had, you know, that was never even tested. We haven't even tested our intelligence for its failure rate. You know, technically, we haven't even passed the natural selection test yet, because, you know, we're going to have to survive a lot longer than this to prove this intelligence thing even works. You know, because we're just going to use our intelligence to kill each other. But that's a whole different question. Where was I going with this? Well, I'll get enough of a speech.
No, I hear you. So, like, are you kind of saying, like, we could put like a Neanderthal of back in the day into the schools of today, because we haven't the mechanism, the brain hasn't changed that much, and they'll come out more or less like you and I, or something of that.
It was a guarantee that you could do it with a guy 40 or 50,000 years ago. I think you can do it with a guy 200,000 years ago, but you know, I'm sure you could do it with a guy 50,000 years ago, and a guy 50,000 years ago didn't know what a, you know, apple pie was. You know, he was really dumb.
Or even how to express himself effectively, and that's why you're saying, like, language. Like, he'll grunt. I mean, dogs grunt, you know, and you're just kind of like, I kind of get it. Yeah, you need to shit. I got it. But they don't grunt math. They don't grunt philosophy, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, by my theory, I'm arguing that maybe you could make a subtle change to a gorilla's brain, you know, in utero, and it would be then language capable, in the sense it could learn enough words. Because I think the only barrier has been the number of words. Like, a gorilla is doing the Helen Keller thing, right? It's basically blind and deaf and dumb, right? And we're doing this sign language thing with it, and we're trying to teach it words. But it needs a certain number of words before it can understand that it's a language, you know, that it's describing the world. And so it's almost like that Helen Keller moment. It's like all of a sudden she needs to connect. Oh, all this jibber jabber with my hand is a language. Oh, this is water, that's tree, this is grass, this is the, you know, and then it all falls into place, and all of a sudden she's brilliant. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's that, just that little click, and so all you need is enough words. Whoops.
Yeah, I got you. I don't know if I buy that it could happen in one specimen. I don't think that's necessarily what you're saying, but, like, through time of us continuing to teach. If anything, like, we teach a few of them sign language, and then they start teaching their offspring sign language, then we planted the seed. Like, you know, you can slap their baboon ass and be like, all right, go. Now go with that. Keep doing the sign language thing. Eventually, you'll get that moment that you're describing.
Yeah, I just don't think you can do it without a physical augmentation. I'm sort of suspect that I think there is a little chain, like we're idiot savants. We basically gave up maybe some sense of our smell or some of our sensations, and our brain used more space for the storage of information and language. And that's why, like our young, take those 2 or 3 or 4 years to first, when you're first developing. No other organism is as incapable and dysfunctional as we are in those first few years. And I think that's because we are orienting language. You know, we are doing, we're setting up, we're cleaning the pages of the book and getting ready to write the language in it. You know what I mean? So I think you'd have to put an animal in that state where you'd have to slow down its maturation, you know, create the same kind of scenario where it can absorb the words to create this conceptual modeling language.
Yeah, I gotcha. It's almost trying to think of an example is like I know like local raccoons here, they're learning. This is kind of a silly example, but I'll pitch it. It's like they're learning how to open cans and shit to the point to where like because the cans, the aluminum and the plastic lids are breaking their claws, they're not learning to open like plants and shells as much. So like the raccoon population is depleted. But like that's what you're saying, like that slight deprivation of one thing is replaced by another, and now they're teaching their young how to open beer cans, you know, like, and then suddenly it starts to kick in a little. Yeah, they're not opening nuts anymore, you know.
Yeah, so whatever happened through our development, you know, we just, I think, like I said, we became language focused, but it was a very different kind of language that we were using, you know, just a signaling language, and then it became a conceptual language, you know, 10,000 years ago or whatever, we started turning into the Helen Keller. You know, we started getting it, that, you know, we can add words and we can develop a whole conversation and do all this abstract communicating.
Do you have a suspect for that? Like, immediately I think Ice Age. Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like, the major Ice Age. You know, it's like the deprivation, or that wasn't the word you used, but that's the best I can find right at the moment, is like we were subtracted from climbing trees because they were dying, or, you know, nuts and shit like that. So then we had to live in caves, we became troglodytes, and now we got to go run after the puma, or not a puma, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm asking, what do you think is a suspect for that Helen Keller?
Well, I think it was inevitable that was going to happen, like I said, when we had the structural change. You know what I mean? That made us able to do the signaling language. That was already made the structural change. And so it was inevitable that we would do the language thing. I mean, all the tribes were doing it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Europeans weren't the only ones that developed the language. The Incas had one. I mean, you know, other civilizations did the same thing. You know, it's not like they took anything. I mean, the first North Americans, I don't think, showed up in North America with a complete language.
Oh, see, you're thinking that maybe it happened a little, like, while there was different tribes, if you will, like I'm thinking back when there was more of a narrow origin. I think you got that, but you're defining that this occurred possibly within the same time frame of separate human groups all over the planet.
Well, I think it sort of did. I mean, just the acquisition of the full language. You know what I mean? The Helen Keller moment happened in different times at different places. But I'm just saying the ability to do the language thing was acquired maybe 50,000 years ago when we were still in Africa. We got the ability to do it before we even started migrating. We didn't access the ability, you know, like you could look at like the different tribes, like the different Aborigines were way behind other civilizations, you know, the Australian Aborigines. So I mean, it's like, you know, you can find where the migrations, where different cultures took it to whole different levels. And obviously the Europeans took it to the most, you know, the furthest. They had gone the furthest, and you could blame because they did the whole animal husbandry thing and all this other stuff, and they, you know, who knows what the exact mechanisms that made it possible for them to take it as far as they did. But yeah, they just acquired more words and a more elegant vocabulary.
Okay, so you still think it may have occurred at that more isolated, like you said, in Africa, like the more isolated human branch, and then it spread out from there, and then it became a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, well, I just think the giveaway is that, you know, obviously there's this huge growth. You know, it grows exponentially when you reach certain plateaus. Oh, just go away, silly person. You know, there's, you know, but you look at the last 200 years, right? I mean, it's almost like a plateau point. You get this industrial thing, you exploit energy, and all of a sudden you have this huge growth in technology.
Bullshit.
Who's doing that?
I said bullshit.
Who are you? Who are you?
I'm nothing bullshit.
Oh, retard. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean to be redundant. Like I said, I was just trying to figure out where you thought the culprit was. I think we're similarly on the same track here.
Yeah, it's just a weird scenario, like I said, for evolution to give us something that had so much extra potential that we weren't realizing at the time we got it. That's just the weird part of it. That doesn't happen too often in evolution. Fucking raining here, way too much.
Sorry about that. I was still listening. I had this wild bird that was like, I don't know if it's fell out of the nest or broke its wing or what the hell, but I got the damn thing in an aquarium sitting over here, and it just started squawking like crazy. So, anyways, sorry about that.
Yeah, well, taking care of wild animals can be so depressing. But, yeah, good luck with it.
Yeah, he was hopping around when I came home, and I put my hand down. He hopped right into the fucking thing. I was like, that's crazy. I went to take him to the Humane Society, but they were closed. But so now, like I said, I got the stranger sitting in my living room. It is a pain in the ass. What can you do?
Did you call the Wildlife Association to kind of help you figure out what kind of bird and what it needs to eat and such?
No, I didn't. I went to this, it was like Raptor or something or other, which I guess is a play on birds, right? And I went to their website, and they sort of, from there, because their lines were down and their offices were closed, they specified for Washington State birds, most of them can actually be fed on corn. So I've been feeding it, periodically I've been feeding it corn off of a toothpick. And it seems to swallow it, so I don't know. We'll see. I just don't want it to die here, you know. Like, I just want it to hang in there long enough so I can take it somewhere tomorrow.
Yeah, let it die somewhere else. Yeah, no, they're just, yeah, they really are. I raised them birds that fell out of a nest one year, and it was just so much work. And, yeah, because they're just constantly wanting food, and it's just all day job, and blah, blah, blah. And then they end up getting eaten by a cat. So it was just like, it was just so fucking depressing.
Yeah, I saved a couple of eastern cottontail rabbits. Their nest got flooded out, and they were 24 hours old. They still had their umbilical cord attached to them, and I managed to. I called the wildlife service, and they taught me what to do, and I was up every 3 hours for at least 10 days straight, feeding that bunny and taking care of it, and that rabbit lived in my home, and it was great. I've saved two east wild cottontail rabbits.
No shit. God, from that young. Yeah, so like I'm worried. Like this guy, he's got feathers and shit. I don't know what the dilemma is. He's not walking around like his legs broke or his wings broke or anything. But I'm not about to fiddle with his shit to find out what's going on. But yeah, that's pretty amazing though. From like you said, just within an hour of birth, and you managed to keep it going. That's incredible.
Well, the strangest thing about it is we had golden retrievers when I was growing up, and they have specialized jaws so that when they pick up something in their mouth, they don't put any teeth marks in it. And it was actually my golden retriever that came to my feet and laid this little hairless, tiny little creature at my feet, and I raised it.
Yeah, we won't even talk about it, where it stole it from. Yeah. My
She
cat,
said it got flooded out.
yeah, well,
From
that's
its,
the story. The
rabbit nest.
dog probably told stories like, I found it was flooding, and I saved the little rabbit. I did. I saved it. I didn't kill its mama. I didn't. You fix it now? Can you fix it?
Yeah.
Yeah, my cat used to
pretty
eat the heads off little fucking critters like that. It was just so horrible. I'd find like a squirrel out in the fucking walk with no head. It's like, oh, fuck. Yuck.
Yeah, it was so nice. The bunny, like, I used to wear these pajamas, and I used to have a pocket over my heart, and I used to put the little baby bunny in there, and it would just, like, curl up and go to sleep, and it needed a heartbeat, so we used to, like, we put a heating pad, and we put, like, at night, when I had to go to sleep and wake up every 3 hours, we put a bag of water, really soft bag of water with a towel over it, and we put the bunny up against it so it would feel like it was next to its mother. It was so beautiful watching that little rabbit open up its eyes at 10 days. It was just beautiful.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, yeah, it's okay. I raised a possum from scratch like that. Its mother got run over in the street, and it was just a little hairless. It looked like a worm almost. When I took it off at the mother.
Nice.
I think it was really nice though. Emerson used to stay in my hair. I used to be able to walk around with a possum holding onto my hair.
Aww, that's awesome.
You said a possum? Is that what I just walked into?
Yeah. Dumbest fucking creatures on earth, right? I mean, I raised the things. Like every day, in the morning, I'd come to feed it, and it'd hiss at me, and it's like, who the fuck are you? And it just, totally didn't know who I was. And then I'd say, oh yeah, I kind of remember who you are. And then it got all an hour later, it's just walking around in my hair, and it's all happy and comfortable. But every morning, I had to remind it who I was. It just, they're really, really dumb.
Yeah, we have a. Whoops.
Yeah, well, that's why I was kind of glad that he when he's about half grown, I had a pen out rabbit cage outside that hadn't been used in years, and I put him out there, and he squirmied through the bars, and so that was the last I saw of him, and I was kind of glad he left, because that's like, yeah, I didn't want to, they only lived like 3 years, and I was like, yeah, well, who needs this heartache?
It is hard to to find a wild animal, and you want to help it, and then sometimes you just can't save them. It's hard.
Well, it's like I almost wonder if I'm even compatible to save this fucking thing. Like was it better off left out in the yard? But that felt like abandonment. Like the damn thing hopped up to me, and I'm like, what? What do you want? So like, do I leave it there, and is that irresponsible, or do I try to fucking feed the thing?
Yeah, well, you have to go with like I said, you have to go with the probabilities, and the immediate fact is you can make it comfortable, so you can't, you know what I mean? That's the bottom line. It's just hard to do that predicting its future thing. So it's going to be better off in the next 10 minutes with you than out in the yard. you know, so you have to go 10 minutes at a time kind of thing, I guess. But yeah, it's all messy. I mean, the other thing I ended up with was a bunch of mallard ducks, you know, as down the park, and this old lady comes down the road, speeding down the road. She just plowed right in through the mother duck as she was walking across the road. And so I had to spend half the day, you know, all the little ducks ran away, and so they're all hiding, you know, because that's kind of their evolution, is just to hide. And so you have to go around going peep, 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 trying to get them to peep back at you, you know. And, you know, it took like 4 or 5 hours to get them all.
Aww. I know, I love ducks. I had ducks as pets. I had 5 of them, and I built them a little barn, and I made them their own little pool, and with a ramp, and yeah, they were wonderful.
Yeah, I was lucky because the raptor place took those. Because technically they didn't qualify, but they said they have room for them, so I said, well, great. So I really didn't want to raise a bunch of ducks.
Yeah, see, I'm doing the same thing. Like, I'm not going out of my way to help the bird because, like, I want to. Like it's a fuzzy, cute creature. I just, like, I felt like it was a responsibility thing. I don't want the fucking thing here, but what can I do? You know?
Yeah, no, I got that. You know, I live that shit. I mean, I feed like 4 cats now. It's like, I don't want a cat. You know.
Oh, come on, Gary. You must admit that you adore Santino. Come on.
Yeah, well, I don't know what that word means, really. I mean, you know, he's okay. I like him. He's a good cat. But, yeah, I wouldn't choose to have a pet.
I know, but if something happened to him, though, you'd be sad, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, of course. That's the whole downside. That's why I don't want a pet, you know?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
You
That's
know?
a negative right there, man.
Yeah, fuck that. That's the worst part of it. The caring thing. Ugh.
So was there no chance of I don't know her name, but the hot blonde Arab coming in, or Pyro?
Yeah, who knows? Zom gets that I can't control that bitch. And Piro, yeah, well, I'm not really getting along with him.
You unblocked him though, didn't you?
No, I've triple blocked him now. He's blocked for life. I'm really sick of him. I'm just done with him.
I see. You guys have already met your ends then, I guess, huh?
Yeah, well, whatever. He's apologized 7,000 times. I've told him, you know, this is the rule. You don't fucking talk trash about me some fucking place else. I'm sick of it. It's bad enough my enemies do it, but when my supposed friends and respecters are doing it, fuck this shit.
Yeah, that would bug me, too. Yeah, I can see why that sucks, you know.
Well, Ellen Coast is kind of making a point here, though, Gary, that you tend to bomb who, I don't, maybe they're not your friends. I mean, I don't know if Ellen can really proclaim who you call your friends, but folks that I thought you were kind of a cohort with, you bombed them a few times, too.
Well, I just go by my own standards, okay? I don't talk trash about anybody else someplace else. I don't sabotage them. I don't feed their trolls. I block their trolls. I defend them, okay? I mean, I don't be a sycophant about it, but I'm, you know, if I see somebody talking trash about Fred or something, I block the fucker. I don't sit there and have a conversation with them.
I see what you're saying. At least you bomb them right on their own video response or something like that, rather than doing it behind their back or some shit.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just going by my own behavior, and I'm just saying, well, how would I have to be thinking about somebody to watch a video trashing them, and then have a conversation with the person who just trashed them? You know, why would I do that? Why would I engage in that if I gave a shit about the person? I mean, why would I let somebody slander them and degrade them and insult them gratuitously? What the fuck would that be?
Yeah, I'm gonna miss, you know, your interactions with him. But yeah, you gotta do, right?
Yeah, well, I'm rationalizing it just too because Piro is all circular. I mean, until he lets go of these, you know, this nonsense. I mean, you have whole arguments with him. You get him to tone his language down, and then he makes a video saying exactly the same shit that you thought you had resolved. And it's like, well, fuck this crap. I'm not going to keep arguing that plants don't feel. I mean, we're either done with the argument or we're not. If you're going to keep saying it, then fuck you. I really don't need to have a conversation with somebody who bases their fucking philosophy on a piece of dogmatic theology. And that's all that fucking is. There's absolutely no evidence that a plant can feel.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Like, if you, like, when you, the whole idea is to have a debate to try to figure out, like you're saying, like, the truth. And they concede the point, they submit to your concept, and then later on they get right back into the old presentation that they had. That does get
well. You have to establish premises somewhere to have any kind of progress, right? So we're never going to be able to progress if he can always pull that stupid gun out of his holster. You know, I mean, I can never force him anywhere if he can always pull the faith card kind of, you know what I mean? It's like the religious thing. You just can't, you got to get rid of it. If somebody's going to believe that there's a God, well, where can we go with that? Because you're going to keep pulling it out every time times get tough. You know, and, you know, Pyro was in this argument about the vegetarian thing again, and he pulled out the old plants can feel crap again. He just pulled the gun out. It's just such a waste. You're saying, oh, I'm so glad I'm not even bothering with this fucker, because who the hell wants to waste their time with that conversation? We're talking about the ethics here, and now we're wasting our time explaining how plants don't feel. I mean, that's not the fucking subject.
Somebody earlier made a point that Pyro tends to do mainstream philosophy. Do you know if he makes, like, ad revenues or anything? So that way, that's why he keeps getting in these circular presentations, to maintain popularity and views?
Not yet. I mean, he's thinking about it, but he hasn't done anything like that yet. So, you know, he's just playing with the idea. But yeah, I don't put any motives like that on him. I just think that is his philosophy. I think he is just basically a generic hippie. You know, I don't think he doesn't go beyond the generic hippie kind of thinking. Like, he's a feel-good philosopher. He's just, you know, he's very into this hedonism kind of attitude. You know, harmless hedonism is sort of his philosophy, and so he doesn't take life as having a whole lot of responsibility tied to it, in my opinion. He just takes it as some sort of, like, yeah, we're all on some sort of our own individual joyride, and, you know, that to me is just bullshit.
Yeah, I can't say that I agree much with that kind of liberal attitude and that kind of relativistic stuff.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, part of it is because, you know, I do think there is an objective state. An objective is a right and a wrong, you know. I really do think that. And also, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, you know, I'm a feminist, too. And that's a whole other can of worms, but, you know, it just, this kind of relativistic thinking kind of allows all kinds of nonsense to take place that's fucking just wrong.
Yeah, it's like some things have to be seen in their context. You know, it's not like one person drinking and driving. Okay, yeah, well, maybe that one person has a different standard of intoxication. They're practically could pass a test, and they're actually not diminished in their capacity at that level of intoxication. Well, it doesn't change the fact that, you know, 40,000 people are fucked over, or hundreds of thousands are actually fucked over every year by drunk drivers. And it doesn't change the ethics that there's still a probability question here, that the likelihood is that you can't be more effective intoxicated. So there's definitely no positive benefit. So, I mean, again, it's that kind of argument. It's like, who wants to waste time with that kind of argument? That because because one person's innocent, therefore all the guilty have to be left out of jail? I mean, it's just stupid.
Yeah, it is. It's that kind of individualist, kind of, I do what I want, kind of bullshit. I don't know. I just, it's that if you don't, if they're not looking at the whole picture, the bigger picture of things, and that's what kind of irritates me.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the game. Like I said, there's a difference between playing out your pawn role and playing the chess game. I mean, we're part of a whole game board, and if you're not recognizing that, you're not recognizing reality, in my opinion.
I mean, I like Piero as a person. I mean, I don't really know him that much, that well, but I mean, I just, the philosophy, I'm just not down with it.
Yeah, well, I really like him as a person, but yeah, I just can't. Well, whatever. Who knows how things will change? I'm just saying. I mean, he's done the exact same thing before. I mean, I've always thrown back in these exact same places with these people, and I'm just so sick of playing it out. Because to me, I can only accept it as rude behavior. Why should I accept that from my friends, quote unquote?
Yeah, for sure. Just like some people, like, they think just because it's the internet, that there's not real people behind it, it's just, oh, you're just an image on the screen, and they can kind of, they make up this kind of, rationalization in their head that they can do that because it's just the internet, and it's bullshit.
Well, it's bullshit in terms of of what, how you feel about it, but I mean it is. I mean the psychology that you're talking about is called vexing. I mean that's why people for customer service can yell at you over the phone. There's no repercussion. The repercussions of the internet is that you get fucking blocked. So I guess Gary's he's carrying it out. What I wonder, because I didn't see the statement, I don't know what he said. I don't know if he what he did, but was it something that he disagreed with, or was it that he was outright insulting you behind your back?
Well, it's the context. I mean, Professor Anton made a really snarky response video that was basically just an ad hominem attack. It was basically just saying, you're just on the internet because you need to be on the internet. It's your ego, and you're doing it, and they're all trying to contextualize that into, like Bark Lord, for example, in the comments, into some sort of argument that Professor Anton was making an argument that see how much you love being on the internet and see how much you need other people. I mean, it's just such a fucking joke. My whole existence on the internet has been about arguing. I obviously am very uncomfortable in most of my videos. The fact that once in a while I make a joke and I'll be walking, talking in the nice wooded environment as I'm doing my philosophy is one thing, but nobody could misconstrue my videos and not see the pain in my eyes. I mean, do you think that's possible? I mean, could somebody watch 10 of my videos and not say that guy is feeling something not fun? I mean, I'm not making fun, happy, life is great videos. No, I'm making I'm making empathetic videos where I am not crying, but I'm crying on the inside kind of thing. Well, anyway, so to contextualize that as I'm just here jerking off is a really, and he implied that I have all these different channels because I have just this compulsion to make videos, and it was just a hatchet job. And Pyro commented on the video like it was a perfectly reasonable response to my video, and was completely off the subject and completely just an ad hominem attack on my character.
I see. But yeah, isn't the reason why you have just to touch on that multiple sites is basically protection of your content, because you've had a site crash with all your content or shut down or whatever, and it was gone. It was like hours upon hours worth of work. Isn't that right?
Yeah, well, it was to cover both subjects. I mean, there was a problem where some people just bitched because, I had too many videos on the one channel and they were on different subjects, and so I said, okay, we'll just put the Right to Die videos over here and the, vegetarian over there, and then you don't have to whine and complain anymore. So part of it was just acquiesce to the stupid commenters who were bitching, But yeah, definitely the other part of it was I made the channels, like the the Do Not God channel was basically my backup channel, and that's the one that ended up getting killed. But the Mendham channel was dead for a year. I mean, Mendham was a dead channel for a fucking year. So I mean, in that context, it's just that just adds more insult to the injury. To make the to say something stupid like that to me in the context where I've lost 600 videos is kind of just such bullshit.
Aren't all of us that make YouTube channels kind of, wouldn't you say that we're all kind of attention whores though, in a way? Like we want our voice to be heard. I mean, so does everybody, but like we, I don't know, that seems like a dead statement to say, like, oh yeah, Gary's just on there just to get attention and it's a big cockswing for him. Well, yeah, well, it is for you too, it is for all of us YouTubers. Like, that's kind of the whole fucking thing, right?
Yeah, but I think it's a different argument in some context, especially coming from him. Like I said, he's the one with ads on his videos, and you're just saying, well, what is this bullshit? He's a fucking professor and he needs the $1.50. It's almost like, what the fuck is that shit? You put ads on your videos, But anyway, beyond that, yeah, but see, my argument would be I would not be on YouTube if it wasn't for the fact that I'm scared to death of the future the way I see it, and so I'm really not a personality. I really don't give a fuck. I don't even want to be a leader of a cause. I'd love to be just a follower. I'd love to have somebody else do this shit, and I could just be the sycophant that makes comments now and then. I would love that. I'd love to just be playing video games and watching movies in my spare time instead of making all these arguments. So for me, yeah, I'm not really here for my ego.
Yeah.
Isn't it a good avenue for entertainment though for you? I mean, like the course of argumentation for you is entertainment, and I'm not wrong to say you're a retired individual on top of that. Am I right?
No. Yeah, no. I mean, I still have to, eke out an existence. Yeah, no. I mean, like I said, I would prefer to be completely comfortable with the way society is and the world is, and not have to worry about it, and not feel any obligation to do this. There's things I'd rather do with my time. I'd rather do computer programming, or, like I said, I really love playing video games. I'd love to waste the rest of my life playing video games.
I have a question. I have a quick question for you guys.
Go ahead. What's up?
I'm wondering, like you were saying that you would much rather spend your entire life just doing what you want to do and not like listening to society and not all this stuff, but like don't you realize what's happening to society? Like how things are actually going down right now? Like what people
Sure,
are
but in what context?
Whatever context that you would think that would be. There's so many things, like government, I don't even know why I'm here, I just wanted to get in here and everyone's talking about all this stuff, so I just want to like say something. But I don't know, I feel like there's just so much going on, there needs to be some sort of like revolution with like the world.
I know, but the point is that people who are in the revolution, well, that's the point though. I mean, I'm the one that's been fighting the war, okay? I've been doing it for 20 fucking years. More. I've been, filing lawsuits, doing all kinds of shit. My whole fucking life I've been fighting the fight. I'm just saying I'd rather not be doing it. I'd rather be perfectly comfortable and think the world was perfectly fine and everything was going just fine and I could do my own thing. But I can't do my own thing, so I have to waste my time fighting with all these imbeciles in the world who are fucking us over. So that's the only point here. The point isn't that people shouldn't care. The point is that, yeah, they're going to be obligated to care if they have a brain. If you have a brain, you're obligated to care, you're obligated to do something about it. So, yeah, and that just sucks. That's all I'm saying. It just makes a shitty life shittier that I have to spend my time doing all this fighting with people.
I got you. And to answer your question, Make, it's not like any of us are satisfied with the outcome of society, the collective society of the whole planet. But you say like a revolution. Well, we've had several revolutions, but they always end up turning into the same monster with the same conviction. So it just becomes this perpetual course. I mean, even, fucking Roosevelt told us about that. you know, I mean, it's like it's our duty to revolt, but then you end up recreating the same beast that you have to fight off again later. What we're concerned with, I don't know necessarily with Gary, but like with most philosophers in general, what we're concerned with is why is it that we have to keep repeating the same fucking course? Like, isn't there a point where you can say, like, okay, even after the revolution, we're gonna have to reconstruct and turn into the same fucking shit? So, like, we need to stop. Even having revolutions is starting to become kind of an over-exaggerated thing to do. I mean, you know, it's just
well,
like
that's not really true. That's not really true. We've had successful revolutions, right? The revolution against, you know, women's suffrage or whatever, successful revolution. The revolution against racism, pretty successful, not too bad. Needs more work, but pretty damn good. So yeah, there's been successes in these revolutions, so they're not all fail. And I think the fact is that yeah, we are getting more philosophically eloquent. We're getting more philosophically coherent. So we're understanding the mechanisms of human psychology and social structure, and being able to contextualize Stalin and Marx and you know, whatever the alternatives are, Reagan and you know, Adam Smith or whatever, and you know, maybe we'll be able to, you know, to do it right instead of doing it wrong.
But I don't know, like, things, there's so many words that we can say, there's so many ideas that we can talk about, and there's so many opinions that everyone can have, but in the end, like, you know, the sun could just be a cell, and we could just be smaller than that cell. There's like so many things that we just don't know. We don't know anything.
See, it sounds like you're trying to, like, you think the revolution should be a new way of defining how we see our reality or something.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I'm only like some fucking 19-year-old fucking living in San Francisco, you know? What am I supposed
That doesn't mean
right?
you don't see the problem, though. I mean, even as a kid, you still see that there's a fucking problem. Maybe you can't quite pinpoint where the issues are, and you'll learn that as you go. But
well, but that's the point, though, is that yeah, she's saying we don't know. No, the truth is we do know. Okay, there's certain philosophers out there know a lot. All right, you got to go look them up. But you know, there's people, Chomsky and whatnot, who will explain to you a whole lot of social dynamics and explain to you how predictable a lot of human behavior is, and that these are the methods that you have to use to, you know, correct for the idiocies that we create, and this obnoxiousness of, you know, war and the greed, and all of this stuff is analyzable. So it's not like we don't have any weapons against it, or it is actually ambiguous. It's just that, you know, it takes time to be informed. It takes time to be qualified to make the argument. I mean, I hate to say that, but it does. It takes work to be a good, qualified explainer or leader or whatever the word you want to use. You can't just know, like, through osmosis. You actually have to research, and you actually have to read, and you actually have to listen. It doesn't just pop into your head.
When we figure all of that out, when we have thought about it and taken all of that time to figure out all of these things, what do we do about it? After all of that, what happens?
Well, all you can do is argue, right? That's all you got is persuasion. That's the only weapon we have. So we have to actually get our thoughts that are in our heads, and we have to migrate them into other people's heads. The ideas, the empathy, the caring, however you want to describe it, that concept has to take from your brain and has to migrate into other brains. So you have to be able to articulate it and convey it to other people in such a way that they'll understand, or they'll see, or they'll feel, and then they too will do the same thing to another person, and then another person. That's all we can do until you have enough people who understand the same truth and have the same value and see the same hope. You know, you got nothing. If all the people are just running in different directions, then you're dead.
Well, I would say unless the people you're intending to make run in all different directions are your opposition, you know. But yeah, I agree. It's the people that match your perspective all come together under that same general idea and then start to perpetuate it.
We can't do shit as individuals, unfortunately. We can't, like, cast a spell on the world and fix it. Can't, like, mix some eye of
That's
newt.
negativity.
Well, whatever.
I
It's
can't.
just practical fact, okay? One
how?
individual does not put a Superman suit on and have atomic powers and X-ray vision and be able to zap all the adversary. No, like I said, you have to do this hard, stupid work of arguing with people hour after hour, year after year, to try to convince them of what the problem is and how there is a solution, that all we have to do is walk over that hill and that we could just harvest the wheat and all the people won't be hungry. But, you know, it just takes a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah, I don't think he's saying that like one person can't make a change. It's just that that one person has to perpetuate with other people. You know, so like it's not the negativity and saying like, you know, you're pointless, so don't even bother. No, that's not what we're saying. It's like you got to find a cause, meaning like with other people and go for it. You can't just sit there and like, prospectively masturbate to yourself of what this grand world is, and then just sit there. Like you've got
Then you got to get
make
lucky.
it blossom.
Look at Martin Luther King, all right? I mean, he had two great speeches, really great ones, you know. I mean, this concept of I have a dream, really great stuff. This concept of judge a man based on the content of his character, not the color of his skin. Great fucking words. Now, at first it took work to come up with the words, but second, it just took timing and circumstance and a lot of other stuff that made it possible for that one man to change millions of minds. Okay? It was the right message in the right brain, in the right person, in the right time, in the right circumstance, and look at what it did. So, I mean, yeah, one person can make the difference, but it's not going to be one person with no friggin' tools in their belt. You know, it's not going to be one person without a whole bunch of circumstantial, whether it's either luck or people behind him that make it possible.
I don't know, I'm not like arguing with you guys. I just like to, because I have no idea who you guys are, and it's just really interesting to go on these kind of things and like talk about these kinds of things and see what other opinions are out there of like all ages and all over the world. I'm not actually arguing, I'm just kind of like seeing.
We're not accusing you of arguing, and we don't even care if you are. In fact, in a lot of ways, that makes it more entertaining for us to bother. But yeah, I mean, we don't mind that you come in and make a point. Just so long as you are actually, you know, you're not just coming in and, you know, looking pretty, make love and, you know, titles and shit like that, but actually making a valid
It's
point.
a weird title, I know. I don't even know where the fuck. I don't even know. I don't even do this whole thingy, stickam thing. Can't, like, I can't even, computers don't make sense. Like, things, only colors and texture and patterns and sounds make sense. No?
Whoa, the art chick. I love art chicks. I'm an artist. I am. I really look. Ooh, artist.
That's really, did you draw that? Or
Yeah.
paint that?
Yeah, no, I'm the real deal.
That's awesome, man. I take pictures.
This Bengali thing, I can do all that. I can do that. Yeah, I'll be good for you. I'll be good for you.
Hey, Meg, do you happen to have headphones by chance?
It's really okay. Push to talk will work.
No. Maybe.
It's just screamed at me a
We
couple
just,
of
I
times.
know, but we don't want her to wear headphones. Come on.
All right.
Ruins the
Yeah,
hot
sure,
chick
I don't care.
thing.
You're such a sucker, Gary.
Well, yeah, well, that's what you call it. Yeah, that's what I am.
Okay, that works. Now is it yelling at you?
It was really okay. Your mic does suck, but it's really okay. It's a typical laptop.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's just that laptop thing.
Yeah, it was just feedback. So.
I get a lot of that in school. Feedback. But, okay, so I just have this idea. I really want to, like, change, like, I really want to do something with the media. I really want to like make a whole new industry of music, art, just the whole thing. I just want to like do something completely new.
Brainiac. Be a brainiac. That's it. Go with like brainiacism. Be a brainiacite.
I don't know what that word means.
I don't know. I just made it up. I just thought it would kind of could be. Maybe that could be your stick. Your shtick. You could be like
I'll write it down. Let me write it down.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I got a lot of words. I can make up words all day.
Well, you're a philosopher. Your job is to make up words, contextualize. Like, what the fuck? Like, I get it, but what the fuck, right?
Yeah, that's been a theme lately. I don't know why, but you know, it's like funny how those certain words get in your head for a month, and you just keep using it. And you keep saying, "Yeah, people know what I'm saying. They know what I'm saying," you know, and they don't really know what the fuck you're saying. But yeah, you know, it's clear in your head. No, I'm not saying you don't know what the word means, but I'm just saying it becomes so second nature to you that you don't realize you're saying something sometimes that somebody else doesn't get because they're not speaking that language yet.
One of my favorite Gary words is fucktard. That's one of my favorite Gary words.
Yeah, but I didn't invent that one, so I can't take credit for that.
But contextualize, the first time I heard that was from him, like a repetition of context, you know, or an expression of context. I get it, but it's fun, that's for sure.
Yeah, I learned it from him too.
I know there's another one, and it isn't coming to me, but another one that he's stated a few times, and I fucking laugh each time. But again, it's like you understand what he's saying, you know.
Yeah, well, I had some great one-liners in my last video, like climbing a mountain of mediocrity to something. I can't remember what it was, but man, it's really good stuff.
Yeah, there's been a few times where I've taken like just brief sentences that you've made, like on your rants, and actually post them as status on Facebook, and had people like it. So and then I would source like, go check them out.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of having a contest just for that, like just to have people go through my old videos and grab my great quotes. There's some really, there are some really good one-liners. I'm kind of irritated myself that I haven't compiled them because they're really good ones.
Yeah, some folks are taking your videos and overlaying them with music. I've noticed. I've seen quite a few of those. I think you have some on your Doom Gloom channel too.
Please, what is this chat room about? What exactly?
Well, In Mendham is my screen name on YouTube. In Mendham.
Oh.
And so, yeah, I've been doing this debate thing in Stickam for like 3 years now. I don't know. Somebody else probably knows how long. But, every Saturday night I do this thing. So I'm in Mendham.
Wow.
And it's like I argue with them. And I yell at them, and then I
that's
them
fun.
out. Yeah, so I just do that every Saturday night.
He tells us the darker side of reality and gets people that are fluffy and cute and want to see the light uncomfortable, and then they try to challenge him. So.
Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting.
and then they crank call
Sounds
me.
like a interesting thing.
Yeah, crank calls and love letters and such. Very nice.
Well, I'm glad that I randomly came upon that. Yeah, I don't know why I even did this. I think because I'm waiting for nothing. There's those nights where you're just doing nothing.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, you gotta have some quiet time in life. You can't be too
Always.
caught up.
Always.
If you get too caught up in it, then you don't have time to think.
Yeah. That's what I feel like a lot of people my age are doing. It's like you see all the stuff that's going on, you're like, where are you? Where are you? Where are you in your mind? How can you not, see, everyone just goes, oh, I get fucked, yeah, I'm gonna go get stuff, and we're gonna get fucked up, and we're all bitches and hoes, and getting their dicks all sucked or whatever. It's just weird. It's weird, and it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
And it has, like,
part of it makes sense to me, okay? But yeah, I don't get the whole getting drunk and all that stuff. That's a waste of your time.
yeah, I guess, but it's interesting to photograph and document, you know.
Well, it's just an escape from the mediocrity of day-to-day life. Like you go to work and work the same shift, selling the same shit, and then you go to school and you're paying for school to learn the same shit, and then you have to deal with peers that are discussing the same shit. It gets really fucking old. So going out and getting plastered and fucking each other tends to be a pretty good escape, you know.
But isn't it that? But isn't it the same old? I mean, I really find that too. I mean, that just got so boring so fast because that even gets to be another redundancy. I mean, Saturday night almost became like another work night. Like, oh yeah, we have to go out and do the routine, be an asshole. You know, get drunk, be an asshole. You know, have a hangover on Sunday. I mean, that part got old for me very fast, and it was like, yeah, I got to find something else to do with my free time. You know, because that was just a dead end.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I get it, that's all. No, you're absolutely correct. It is just part of the same redundant bullshit, and you're never really getting to know anybody because you're all pissed drunk and, you know, whatnot. But, like, I understand why they think it's a necessary thing to do. I get that.
Yeah, I mean, I wished it was all this technology when I was young. I mean, I would have just loved this shit. So, you know, I think you have a real advantage now in that you can learn so much. There's just so much shit on the internet to get lost in.
Yeah, I often think about that too. I often wish we had this kind of technology when I was growing up.
Well, even just YouTube, what it's done for me in terms of arguing. Because, you know, in real life, I could never find people to, you know, it was hard to find people to argue with that you wouldn't end up getting into a fight with, and then it gets all personal and it all goes nowhere. So it's like I couldn't have a lot of great, you know, I could argue with people. I mean, I did it wherever I could. But, you know, I didn't have nearly this kind of opportunity. You know, it's like I couldn't even record myself effectively and have an argument with myself. And I could do that with video. And even that's how I kind of started YouTube, was I first did the public access TV where I was just kind of making shit up. And, you know, and so it was just so cathartic in terms of my own brain function.